Am I the asshole for not having dinner ready when my fiancé gets home from work? I am currently 38 weeks pregnant and have been at home from work until my maternity leave is up. My fiancé still has to work until our daughter is born. He gets home from work around 4:30 and I usually have dinner done around 5:30, 6, so when he comes home I am usually just starting dinner. This has been my routine since I have been home from work, and usually he'll mention that he's hungry when he gets home as he doesn't eat anything except a snack, but some days he'll just not eat anything at all. I have offered to pack him lunches, sometimes with leftovers, but he always rejects them because he doesn't like to eat. Before I moved in he would just order food for himself, but now he waits until I have dinner done. Well, today he came home and asked if I could make sure I start having dinner ready when he gets home instead of having to wait on me to cook. I explained that it's too early to have dinner prepared and that he's the only one who is hungry at this time. We also have a 4-year-old and feeding her that early of a dinner just isn't practical. He said how he talked it over with his coworkers and they all say how their wives have dinner on the table ready when they get home, and how he's tired of coming home hungry and having to wait sometimes over an hour to be fed. I said that it wasn't my fault that he chooses not to eat throughout the day and he's just gonna have to snack because I'm not cooking dinner that early. He got defensive and started making me feel like I was being the But I feel like I didn't do anything wrong. ETA. He also made a comment about me being home all day now, so that it is reasonable to believe that I can have dinner ready and that there isn't much of an excuse. Not the asshole. He doesn't eat anything except a snack, but some days he'll just not eat anything at all. I have offered to pack him lunches, sometimes with leftovers, but he always rejects them because he doesn't like to eat. My dude can just eat lunch. Sounds like you're in a relationship with a child, definitely not the asshole. It's embarrassing enough that he would order food instead of learning to cook before you moved in. He should be able to make himself meals if he's hungry, not expect you to have them ready. It takes 10 minutes or less to make something quick like scrambled eggs while you finish dinner if he really can't wait. If he can't even do that, then why are you with this man? Sounds like he showed you exactly who he was before the kids came along and you stayed anyway. Does he at least help with house chores and childcare, or is he just selfish in every way, expects you to do it all even while pregnant? Tell him eat lunch. It's not healthy to not eat all day and it's clearly making him moody. You can quote that. Tell him if he wants to eat at 4:30 he can buy something on his way home and you can just cook for you and the 4-year-old. As a stay-at-home mom myself, it's all in how it's asked. Your husband is acting entitled. You don't have to cook at all. Not the asshole. Who cares what arrangement his coworkers have with their wives? Those women are not the ones who married him, care for his children, etc. If a grown-ass man with a job can't take care of himself for 1 hour, you got bigger problems. Geez, would he jump off a cliff if his company workers said it was okay? I've generally found that people who use this type of excuse are either lying through their teeth or are referring to one colleague, who is a complete misogynist who is on their 5th marriage. It's his fault he's that hungry and it's not up to you to solve it. It's all on him and his choices. He is an adult, after all. I have to say it sounds kinda ab-sieve. At the pregnancy stage you're in, 2 weeks or less until B-Day, he should be rushing home to cook for you, not being a demanding diva. He seems to have no consideration for anyone else. Whatever you do, don't give up your job because I suspect you really won't like the person he becomes. Good luck with the birth. Not the asshole. And when he quizzed his company workers, did he happen to mention you are a PPX8 MOS? Preggers and caring for a 4-year-old, and he would not be hungry at 4:30 if he ate lunch. I wonder how many of his considerate co-workers have wives who secretly think about going all Edgar Allan Poe on them by bricking them up in a basement wall. Am I the asshole for asking my sister to replace my jelly beans after her son ate them? So, I, 25M, recently invited my family over for dinner at my new condo. I'm really proud of this place. It took years of saving, hard work, and sacrifice to get here. It's small, but it's mine, and I wanted to celebrate with a nice family dinner. I decided to make homemade spaghetti carbonara. I spent hours on it, crisped pancetta, freshly grated parmesan, whisked with eggs and pasta water for a perfect, silky sauce. Carbonara is all about timing and texture, so I was in the kitchen paying close attention to every step. I added garlic bread, salad, and even made a cheesecake for dessert. It was a big effort, and I wanted the evening to feel special. Now, I keep a big jar of jelly beans on my coffee table as a treat. I love picking out a few here and there, and I always save the cream soda ones for last. They're my favorite. The jar has lasted a long time, and it's something I enjoy after a long day. My sister Laura, 35F, brought her 7-year-old son, who's honestly a bit of a handful. He's not used to hearing no, and thinks every space is his to do what he wants. My sister has never set limits with him, and growing up, our parents spoiled her too. While I was busy in the kitchen, my nephew found the jelly bean jar. I didn't notice at first because I was trying to get the carbonara just right. After dinner, I went to grab a handful of jelly beans and realized that almost all the cream soda ones were gone. My nephew had picked them out, leaving a mess of crumbs and broken bits. I pulled Laura aside and mentioned it, asking if she'd noticed. She just shrugged and said, "Oh, he only likes the cream soda ones, so he picked those out. No big deal." I tried to be polite, but I told her that those were my favorites and asked if she could replace them, or at least get me some more of the cream soda flavor. She got annoyed and snapped, "He's just a kid. You're seriously this worked up over some jelly beans?" I told her it wasn't about the jelly beans, but that it would have been nice if she'd kept an eye on him or taught him to ask. Laura rolled her eyes and said, "Then don't leave temptations out if you don't want kids touching them." I asked her one more time to either replace the jar or just the cream soda ones, but she refused, calling me petty and saying I was blowing things out of proportion. My parents jumped in to back her up, telling me to drop it, and that I should know better than to have temptations out around kids. But it's not just about the money, it's about respect and boundaries. I put a lot into that dinner, and her response was to let her son treat my place like his personal candy store. Now my family thinks I'm overreacting, but to me, this is about respecting boundaries. Am I the asshole for asking my sister to replace the cream soda jelly beans her son ate? Edit. I'll accept my verdict since apparently it is normal these days to allow a child to root through a jar of jelly beans like a hog looking for truffles. What I won't accept, what I won't tolerate, is the insults about my competency as a home chef. Let me walk you through it, so you understand why real carbonara takes time and why cutting corners would be a disgrace. First, I went to this authentic Italian market with shelves stacked high with imported goods, where the scent of cured meats fills the air. They carry real pancetta, flown in weekly, and I spent ages with the owner, Domenico, who handpicked the perfect wedge of Parmigiano Reggiano for me, a rich, nutty block that was almost too beautiful to grate. Next, I stopped at this tiny, family-owned shop that specializes in fresh farm eggs and produce. Carla, the owner, gets these eggs from a nearby farm, and each one is an intense, deep golden color, perfect for a creamy, rich sauce. Finally, I swung by a salumeria for semolina flour. It sounds dramatic, but that's the lengths I go for traditional pasta. The place feels like a rustic old-world bakery, with walls lined in wooden shelves and burlap sacks stacked high. Their semolina flour has a texture and richness that just doesn't compare, ideal for handmade pasta that holds up with the perfect al dente bite. Back home, I crafted the pasta from scratch. Flour piled on the counter, eggs nestled into a well, kneading it with care until the dough was soft and elastic, a process that took a solid 15 minutes of arm work. Then, I let the dough rest before rolling it into long ribbons, each one dusted lightly with flour, like fresh snow. Finally, I crisped the pancetta, grated the cheese by hand, and whisked the eggs to the perfect consistency. The sauce had to be watched like a hawk, just enough heat to turn it creamy without scrambling, with careful additions of pasta water to reach that glossy, silken texture. So yes, it took hours. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Given the limits of this subreddit, you are the asshole, but really you're just being petty. They're jelly beans. They aren't expensive, and they make more every day. Buy some cream soda jelly beans and hide the jar whenever nephew comes over, which probably won't be often considering you're making a big deal about jelly beans. Congratulations on the condo, though. You had a jar of jelly beans out when you had guests and got upset when one of them helped themselves? That's just part of hosting. Next time put away anything you don't want seen, eaten, potentially broken, or judged. You are the asshole. You wrote, "I keep a big jar of jelly beans on my coffee table as a treat." Well, that is exactly what happened. Your nephew discovered them and helped himself to a treat of the flavor he liked. I get your point, but you're being very precious about jelly beans. I tend to agree with you regarding your nephew's behavior, but again, he didn't break or damage anything. He merely ate something which you left out as a treat. Your response is odd to the point of you are the asshole. Unless you made the pasta yourself, I can't see how you spent hours on carbonara. He's 7, old enough to have been taught the words, "may I," and "please." Laura's reaction is effectively permission for him to take without asking again in future. Your parents, the same applies. Apparently they don't see the benefit of a child learning self-control and being respectful. Well, I don't see the issue with the jelly bean jar being visible on the counter. But I do have an issue with the fact that whilst guests were still present, you seemingly went to grab a handful for yourself, but not to offer to share with said guests. That would have been impolite. You are the asshole. You put the candy there for folks to eat. So one of them did in a fashion I would expect from a 7-year-old. My response to my nephew doing this would be to buy him a bag of his favorite ones. Because I love him and want to see him happy. Let it go, don't create a rift with your sister and nephew over this. Am I the asshole for not caring if my mother is allergic to cats? I, 27F, have a mom, 53F, who's severely allergic to cats and has asthma, which cat dander makes worse. My husband, 32M, and I moved across the country a few years ago, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and since then, we've built our little fur family with 2 dogs. Now, we've been wanting to add a cat to the mix for a while, and we're financially stable and not allergic ourselves. A couple of months ago, I mentioned this to my mom, and her response was, in a snarky tone, "Well, just know the rest of your family and I will never visit you, but if that's what you want, then fine." It stung a bit to hear that, but honestly, she's only visited us once in the years since we moved. I feel like we should be able to make decisions about our own home without her allergies being a factor, especially since she rarely visits anyway. Some of my family thinks I'm selfish, but my in-laws think it's ridiculous for her to expect us to put our plans on hold just in case she wants to come by. Am I the asshole for not caring about her allergies and getting a cat anyway? Get many cats, be happy with fur babies and ignore your mom. Not the asshole. It isn't that you don't care, it's that she doesn't live with you. She can visit you and stay in a hotel room. You're 2,000 miles away and your home decisions have zero to do with her, either negatively or positively. Not the asshole. Your mom isn't a member of your household, nor is she a frequent visitor. She's been to your house once in 3 years? That's not a frequency that warrants changing your lifestyle for someone else. If she wants to visit, I'm sure there's a hotel nearby. Lol, get wrecked mom. Not the asshole, even if she did come visit, she could stay in a hotel. Seemed like an unnecessary and shitty comment to make. Not the asshole. It's really selfish of her to think she can dictate what you do 365 days a year just because of her allergy. Is she always this controlling? No assholes here. It sounds like you moved right after COVID, so I would expect your asthmatic mother to not be traveling to visit you for a couple of years for health reasons. You can get a cat if you want, she's just telling you about what the consequences will be. If she's not visiting enough to make a difference, then go ahead. You can spring for a hotel once every couple of years for mom. Am I the asshole for not letting my mom come to my wedding after she ignored me my whole life? I, 26M, am getting married to my fiancé, let's call her Sarah, 25F, in a few months, and I'm super excited about it. But there's one big issue with all the planning, my mom. A little background. My parents divorced when I was 8, and my mom, let's call her Layla, remarried pretty quickly after that. She married this guy, Dave, who had 2 kids of his own. Ever since, it's like I was no longer a priority in her life. She focused all her attention on Dave and his kids. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say she treated them way better than me. They'd go on trips, she'd go to all their sport events, and they'd get everything they wanted. Meanwhile, I felt like I was invisible. She didn't ask about my school, didn't care about my friends, or even my mental health. I started to feel like I wasn't even her kid anymore. When I turned 18, I moved out. I thought maybe she'd care and try to stay in touch, but nope, she didn't. I'd text her once in a while just to check in, and she'd either not respond or say she was busy with Dave and his kids. I figured if she didn't care, why should I? So, I just stopped trying to reach out. Fast forward to now. I'm planning my wedding, and out of nowhere, my mom starts texting me like we're super close. She wants to know all the details, saying how excited she is, and even saying things like, "I can't wait to see you start this new chapter." Like, seriously? I haven't heard from her in years, and now she expects to be front and center for my wedding? I told her straight up that I didn't want her there. I said I'm not comfortable with her coming after everything that's happened, and that if she really wants to have a relationship, we can talk about it after the wedding, but not before. She started crying and saying I'm holding a grudge and that I'm her son, and she deserves to be there. But I don't know how I'm supposed to just forget the fact that she ignored me my whole childhood in favor of Dave's kids. Now, my family is split. Some of them think I'm right and that I shouldn't just let her show up when she never showed up for me. Others think I should just let it go, and it's just one day, and that I should let her come to the wedding to keep the peace. So, am I the asshole for not letting my mom come to my wedding after everything that happened? So she must have some sort of flying monkey among the people you are in touch with. Do you have any idea who? Someone has been keeping her abreast of developments, or she wouldn't know anything about it. I'd be tempted to be as brutal as necessary. Tell anyone who raises the topic, I am not interested in granting her any kind of a redemption arc. I have learned how to live without having her in my life, and she without me. I have every intention of keeping it that way. The subject is closed. Not the asshole. This is your wedding. You're supposed to have the people you love around you. It's not for her or anyone else. You said you would talk about things after the wedding, which is reasonable. It's up to you who you invite, not your family. It may be unpopular with some of them, but ultimately it's your decision. Not the asshole mate, I say stick to your guns. End of the day it's yours and your fiancé's decision who comes. If she supports your decision then you have your answer. Congrats on the wedding. Not the asshole. You are not obligated to keep the peace when the only one disrupting the peace is your absent mother trying to get free food and drink and glory at your wedding. Why would she ever expect to be welcome there? Her presence would be a painful reminder that she didn't think you were worth the time of day. My guess is she will disappear again as soon as it's over. Not the asshole. She hasn't been a mom to you for years. It even doesn't like she wants any reconciliation, no apology, no how are you, no real interest. Just demand after demand, ignoring the fact you two have no kind of relationship for years. It seems she just wants to play an important role that she doesn't deserve, bring her family and have a good party with them. You decide. Not her, not family. If they want to keep peace, what about keeping that you have now without her in your life? HNNN, if she ain't gonna be there when it mattered and you needed her most, she doesn't deserve to be a part of the celebration that you made it without her. Bye TF.